It's been a while since I talked about a specific game in detail, and the last time I did it sucked ass. Throwing a copy of Yoshi's New Island at me and asking me to talk about it for 8 minutes isn't gonna go anywhere. It takes a certain game to get me really wanting to talk about it. I've had ideas for games that I've wanted to make videos on, and maybe I will in the future if I feel it, but the game that really got my attention was The Wonderful 101. This game has a pretty interesting history. The game's studio, Platinum Games, made up of former Capcom employees, made some good games to this point like Bayonetta and Mad World on Wii, definitely proving they can make some good stuff. Then one day, they decided to partner up with Nintendo. Oh hey Platinum, what's up? Oh, nothing much, how about you? Oh, you know, I saw that Mad World game you guys made on the Wii, it was great, the colorblind community loved it. Oh yeah, thanks man, that really means a lot coming from someone like you. We were thinking about if you guys made a new game for our new console we got cooking up. Oh really, what's it called? It's called the Wii U. It's gonna be flying off the shelves in droves, man. We're expecting 20 million units in the first month. That's really interesting, man. Maybe in the future we could work together, but I'm not so sure about exclusive. It's gonna have Wii Fit U. Now it's a deal, good sir. The game went through a bunch of different concepts until eventually it settled on a superhero beat-em-up style game based around moving a large group of characters. Showcases were pretty limited, there were trailers, but overall it just felt like a game in the background. A lot of hands-on demos at E3 and conventions didn't go really well for journalists. This was still 2013, so I guess journalists might have had the impression that they should use the gamepad to draw the shapes because it's the Wii U's gimmick. We'll get to this later, but for now just know that you really shouldn't draw with the gamepad. I know we laugh at games journalists for not being the brightest people in the world, but this still kind of spread around the idea that the game was clunky to control. Game got a direct in August 2013 and wow, no one cared. Nintendo Directs get like millions of viewers, and this one doesn't even have 100k, that is just sad. It had no marketing at all, it just kind of existed in the void. It was never expected to be some huge system seller game with 10 million copies sold, but even then the game still bombed hard. It launched in August in Europe and Japan and September in North America. You know what else came out in August and September of 2013? Pikmin 3, Wind Waker HD, Rayman Legends. Even for just Wii U stuff, it was gonna have a rough time. It was going up against some of the most highly anticipated and greatest games for the system. But just to make sure no one buys this game, Grand Theft Auto 5, one of the highest selling video games of all time. The odds were so stacked against this game, it was pretty much doomed to fail from the start. Sales numbers are hard to find, but it generally seems like it sold less than 100,000 copies. In its first week in Japan, it sold less than 5k. The game didn't just bomb, it got sent to the clearance bins. Platinum themselves joked about how hard the game tanked by saying it only sold 13 copies. Even the copy I got was like $15 off or something, I'm not sure, it was 2013, I don't have the receipts. I got it a couple months after it came out on Wii U, and I beat it, and I liked it. The only problem is that it's on the Wii U. I know the Wii U has its charm and all, but going back to it is just a mess. The menus take too long to load, the gamepad is an active dust magnet, it's super prone to hardware failures, it does some cool stuff, but I'd rather use the Switch, or the 3DS, or the PS4, or the fucking Game Boy Advance SP. So when the Switch came out and tons of games started getting ported to it, people were wondering about the Wonderful 101. Platinum kept teasing it for a while, saying they were looking into it. It sounded like they were really trying to get this game ported, but Nintendo or something else was keeping them down. The rights for this game are kinda messy, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not gonna act like I know what I'm talking about, but it seems like Nintendo at least owns part of the Wonderful 101. Eventually they gave in and let Platinum publish the game on other systems. In February 2020 they announced a Kickstarter asking for $50,000 and people crushed that goal within a day. They raised over $2 million. With the money they were able to put the game on PS4 and Steam. Now, could the Kickstarter be seen as shady? Maybe. But at least the game was gonna come out and have the opportunity to finally become the hit game it deserved to be. And then the Great Plague of the 21st century happened and the world went to shit, so yeah, the game kinda bombed again. But at least they were able to get the game on more platforms with consistent player bases. In July, I picked the game up on PS4 because I think it's neat to have a Nintendo-published asterisk game on a non-Nintendo console. You don't really see that often. Also, this game I feel is a prime target to get taken off online stores at one point, so I'm glad there's physical copies. You know, the official name is Remastered, but does that really count here? I mean, they changed some stuff, but I don't know if it's enough to call it a remaster. I don't know. The line between port, remaster, remake, whatever is so blurred now. Who cares? Let's just play the game already. Also, I should probably say I'm on the PS4 version. I don't think there's that many differences besides like performance and stuff. The game opens with a disclaimer telling you to play in a lit room, but it scrolls by so fast that you'll never be able to read it all. That's kind of weird. You'd think they put it when you turn on the game, like auto-saving warnings or something, but no. Incomprehensible. It's got me curious, so I looked up the Wii U version. Apparently that's where the Nintendo logo was in the original, so that's actually pretty smart. The credits are all done through city billboards and signs, and I like it. It gives it the tone of a PG-13 action movie. We get a flashback of the main character's dad getting murdered in front of them as a child. Wow. Intrigue. Suddenly, the city starts getting lasered, and we take control of our main character, Will Wedgwood. I like this first section because it immediately gets you familiar with the idea of gathering a large group of people, as well as the fact that medals exist. There's a lot of cheesy action movie stuff, and then we get introduced to our first enemies. However, you don't get to fight them yet because you're still in your normal man form. And we die. Nah. Here we get introduced to Wonder Red and exposition.
Utilizing the psychic switches on their wonder pellets, transforming mere mortals around the world, have donned a powerful exo's wonderful 100. By merging their wonder energy, the Unite Morph, secret weapon of the wonderful 100. Unite Build allows Wonderful Ones to instantly analyze a structure for gaps or deficiency. The Wonder Liner extends the Wonderful One's wonder energy to ordinary citizens.
Yeah, during this opening there's gonna be a lot of that. Now we get to fight, and we punch. I would be surprised if we didn't. Next up on the introduction list is Wonder Blue, the sword user, and we get shown QuickTime events, and there are going to be a lot of these, so get used to them. Finally, we get to the main combat mechanic of drawing shapes to summon weapons, or Unite Morphs. You get two off the bat, Fist of Circle, Sword of Line. Fist is great for taking out one specific target, and Sword is great for dealing smaller damage to a lot of enemies. You'll use these two a lot throughout the game. There's also a lot of smaller things the game throws at you in this tutorial, energy meter that stops you from spamming Unite Morphs, currency you get from beating enemies, recruiting citizens you find throughout the levels to join your team, building chains and bridges to go over gaps, and Unite builds. A bunch of kids show up and shower the wonderful 100 with praise, and I don't think they knew a bus was about to crush half of them. Actually, wait a minute, where was this bus going if the only road this led to was unfinished? Maybe the bus driver was the bad guy all along. School should probably launch an investigation.
Why would you want those liars' autographs?
Well, okay, this is Luka. Luka Allen Smithy. Allen Smithy is the name that directors use when they want to not have their name attached to a movie. It is never brought up, the wiki acknowledges that the joke exists but never explains the joke. I don't get it. Maybe I'm just dumb. But yeah, this kid is coming back again if you couldn't tell. Also, oh no, the villains are in a dark room except there's clearly light on them. Once we get to the menu, we get to access the shop and the game immediately tells you to buy Unite Guts and Unite Spring. Your basic garden block, and for only 10 O parts, what a steal! Except it wasn't always like this. In the Wii U version, these were much more expensive and could potentially make it so you couldn't afford both of them after the prologue. Now that they're so cheap, they're practically begging you to buy them, which you should because these are practically required in some areas. It's crazy how the game doesn't just give you these from the start, but I guess at that point they would need to find a way to fit it into the tutorial, and I guess that could mess up some stuff, so just throw them in the shop. Also, now that you have more money, it incentivizes new players to buy more healing items. Man, I love this game's soundtrack. It's so good. According to this YouTube playlist, because I'm not counting all these myself, there's 127 tracks for this game, and man, do they really add to the action. A lot of tracks are only used for like 1 or 2 cutscenes. It really adds to the whole movie vibe. This game had 6 composers ranging from Metal Gear Solid, Yakuza, Okami, Fire Emblem, Mario Party 10, Star Fox Zero, a ton of other shit. And one of them has the same name as an anime character, so that made him slightly confusing to look up. Let's head on into the first main level. We get told more plot about how aliens are invading, and we get introduced to Commander Nelson and Alice. Also, all the characters in this game have the same emotional complexity as Power Rangers writing. Do I actually want to talk about the story, like, in depth? Well, I probably won't. I'll probably just edit cutscenes, you know. They do some neat stuff with it, so I think it's worth mentioning at least. Wonder Red gets put in charge of the team despite only being a member for a month, and we get sent down to the first level.
Unite up!
Roger! That's a nice looking intro cutscene you have there. I hope it plays every time we get into a new level. Dogus. These are the first enemies that can reasonably hurt you. They also spawn in more little guys, so take them out and then focus on the small guys that don't do much. I guess I should talk about the combat in this game. It's really good. Platinum is known for having great combat systems, and this is no different. You're pretty limited right now, but once you get more upgrades, the combat starts feeling super smooth and fast-paced. Drawing feels so natural on the right stick. Literally never use the gamepad. The PS4 controller actually has a somewhat good replacement for the gamepad with the touchpad, but it still feels really clunky to use. The game is just too fast-paced for me to look away from the action, get out my iPad 2 and start drawing. The bigger the shape you draw, the bigger the weapon will be, but it's on a timer before it shrinks back down, and if you get hit while using it, you lose it completely. And then you gotta gather all your people. It's a good risk-reward system. First gamepad puzzle of the game. It's nothing complicated, it's just match the combination. These just don't feel good a lot of the time. You could easily remove these and really nothing would be lost. I mean, there's only like 3 cool things they do throughout the game with this 2-screen setup. I guess this was just a thing Nintendo forced in because like, oh, we have to use both screens because fucking it's the Wii U. But then, you know, the Wii U died, so now every game has to get rid of those. But even in the Wii U version, you could just use the Pro Controller and have both screens on one screen. Most of the 2-screen sections only last for like 2 minutes tops. I'm not gonna lose sleep over how bad they are, but it's like, it's just kind of there. Gacha capsules. I have a very strict policy against playing anything related to gacha. These, along with Wonder Toilets, are just fancy ways to give you rewards throughout levels, particularly recruits in this case. In each gacha, you're almost guaranteed to get a Wonderful member. Oh, yeah, Wonderful members. These are permanent additions to your overall member total. The max you can have is always 100, even with citizen recruits, but you can start to stage out with more people the more you get. Each one has a unique design, profile, backstory, logo, and are all voice asterisks. I'll get to that later. They range from alcoholism, crippling alcoholism, 6-year-old children. Find these guys throughout the world, and they're pretty neat, and some are really well hidden. Hoedowns. These guys are pretty simple. You pretty much just gotta use guts, which makes it even more crazy than the Wii U version. These are so expensive. You can throw enemies into other enemies if they get knocked down by circling them. Once you get rid of their shield, just use fists and they'll die pretty much instantly. That man is absolutely dead, and for his sacrifice, we get a minigame. You grab a shield and have to turn to save yourself from the exploding cars. It's literally nothing special, but it's the first of these minigames that we get for like a minute, and then never again. Dogus. These enemies are your typical bullet sponges, literally just use fist. Especially with upgrades, they go down like instantly. After that guy, you get Geth Circles. Mini challenges that you unlock. It's usually just kill the enemies, but sometimes there's conditions, like only getting certain Unite morphs or other stuff. Didn't do a lot of these because they're like super well hidden. I ran into only like 3 throughout all my playthroughs. They're there if you want the challenge, but I don't really care enough to do all of them. The carts. The actual enemy is fine, they don't really do much that's annoying. But for some reason they have a stupid amount of invincibility frames when they spawn in. I'm wailing on this guy and I'm not getting anything because they're still technically in their spawn-in animation when they're standing still. Levels, or operations, are split into 3 sections: the A part, the B part, and the C part. The A and B parts are similar, they're only divided up so the action doesn't drag out too long, and the C part is just one very long multi-stage boss fight. On to the B part, we get put on this nice quiet section where we learn about rude. We get to learn about glider sections, and I'm not really a big fan of these. There's usually just nothing really that exciting going on with these flights, and I never really feel like I'm ascending when I ascend because of the perspective. But I mean, I guess if things were going on, it would be pretty awful because you're suspended over an instant death pit, so maybe it's a good thing. But who cares about the glider? It's time for our first real mini-boss. This is where the game really shines. The bosses in this game are so good, man. There's so much going on in this fight with the music, the effects, you gotta hit the weak points, then turn the gears and counter the bombs. It's so good. It's only a mini boss and it's pretty short, but it just gives you a taste of all the later bosses and they only get better from here. I love it. Yo-hos, man, I am really getting tired of pronouncing these names. And I'm probably pronouncing them wrong. I'm not gonna go over every individual enemy because death will come for you one day, and I want you to enjoy the time you have left. So from now on, I'm only gonna talk about certain enemy types if I have anything meaningful to say about them. So yeah, Yuhos, they fly and are a real pain to hit when we don't have any projectiles. Oh hey, would you look at that? Wonder Green, for his neutral special, he wields a gun. He's French, fat, and really unfunny. His main jokes are having food, saying French things, and being rude to Blue. Also, apparently he's been on the team for a while. Given that he's probably been on the team for a couple years at least, I wonder how old he is. 14? Who gave a 14-year-old a gun? Thank fuck he is an American.
Boom, 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 boom. Somebody asked me about shooting up buildings. That take a lot of work. I want you to think about thinking smarter, not harder.
Gameplay-wise, Green serves a good purpose of attacking targets that are far away, and does really well against bosses that spend a lot of time out of reach. Red does a lot of damage to one enemy up close, Blue does damage to a wide range of enemies, and Green does damage to far away enemies. Even after you hit an enemy with gun, they get chip damage dealt to them as your teammate punches the guy that they're clinged onto. You have a lot of reason to switch between all three at this point. They all have a lot of little quirks. They all have a lot of little things to help them stand apart, like Blue reflecting lasers and absorbing lightning, and Green having the ability to pick up bombs and fire them back. You can never rely on just one morph, and it's really fun to switch between them, especially when you unlock later upgrades like Speed Liner and Multi-Unite. Another 2-screen section, and this time we play a timing roulette minigame that involves both screens. Man, I am so glad I bought a Wii
U. We are not blind.
So, the sniveling worms dare to defy the guild of evil aliens terrorizing humans with gigawatt bombs, energy beams, ray guns, and killer lasers? This time, the mighty Lambo will wipe their simpering smiles from the face of the planet!
Lambo is easily one of the best villain characters, and his boss for this level is also great. You have to switch between all three morphs: Green to shoot back the bombs, Blue to take out the little guys, and Red for fighting Lambo himself. Love the little guys in the stands cheering for Lambo. It's a nice touch, I appreciate it. Lambo retreats and you play baseball with the cannon's bombs, and it feels so impactful to knock them back. Operation 1C starts of story. Don't let the statues be destroyed. That is basically the plot for 90% of this game. We get unlimited form.
Disabling their Shirogane drive limiters, they push their suits to reach new levels of Unite energy capacity. However, this power comes at a cost. Extended operation in unlimited form can cause considerable damage to team members, and an overheating drive can explode with teratons of force. The ultimate weapon is the ultimate double-edged sword.
That double-edged sword part literally never comes into play. It's pretty much just that the battery gauge is set to max without needing to collect batteries.
Hey, jerkface! You ain't getting away from me!
I'll talk about Luka later. First phase is a shoot 'em up section, and it's one of the minigames that actually shows up later. Shoot the fireballs and avoid the goop balls. If you get hit, you have to re-grab the wheel. Thankfully, you don't have to mash the fire button, you can just hold it down. Once you fire enough at the dragon, you get to walk on a chain to get on its back. They put a lot of detail into the background for this scene. It looks really nice. A lot of the backgrounds look really good when you get to look at them. The rest of the fight is just getting to beat up the dragon. Like I said earlier, Green does really well for these types of fights. A lot of the time it's just waiting for them to attack, so Green is great for dealing damage. Blue and Red also get used to reflect lasers and when the dragon gets stunned. The set piece for this fight is just so cool, and the quick time events are really well done. I usually hate quick time events, but for this game they just work really well. It's so satisfying to beat the shit out of the bosses in this game. Next phase is just throwing shit at Lambo under a time limit. Lambo gets a second dragon, and holy shit, Platinum does so well with boss fights. A lot of the fight is just waiting, but I forget about that when you shoot a fucking arrow into him and slice him in half. Operation 2, Blossom City Center. The 5G tower has been intercepted and isn't giving the aliens cancer. Go fix that. This is just some more city levels to get you feeling comfortable before the game branches out into wacky shit. Nothing that different from the first levels, except now more focused on rooftops instead of streets. You get put into a subway section mini-game, I guess. You gotta dodge walls while shooting at enemies. The vehicle has a health bar, and you can't switch rails while using morphs. It makes for a really memorable area of how chaotic it feels. And transitions into a boss fight with...
Surrender my arms. I'm afraid that is not going to happen. You see, I need them for battle. A righteous battle, I might add. The reasons for which I would be happy to iterate for you should take about 10 to 15 minutes of your time, Blunder Red. Shall we begin?
Wonder Red. And, yeah, fine.
Vorkin is a great villain. He was the guy with Steez in the prologue. He's the evil clone version of your team, and he has great fucking writing. For his actual fight, though, I feel like he's one of the lesser bosses. Maybe it's just because they reuse it so much, but I feel like something's lacking here. Vorkin uses all of the morphs you have, and even some bonus abilities like Unite Guts and Unite Tombstone in later fights. But it really ends up becoming running and waiting for him to use a fist attack, counter, use fist, repeat. I don't know, it just kinda lacks a sense of grandness from the other boss fights, even with the super good music and Vorkin taunting you the whole fight.
Dying is a terrible thing.
As long as you avoid his up B out of shield, he's no challenge. After you beat him, you get thrown off the ship and have some more quick time events. Also, I should probably mention, every one of these quick time events has a unique animation for failing them. All of them do. It really just shows another level of effort considering how much time they gave you to complete these. Holy shit. I'm drawing a straight line here. Really shows how much personality they wanted to put into the characters. New mechanic, Spikes. You get Wonder Pink, whose weapon is a whip. Her personality is basically just woman.
The keyword is fashionably. I got in late last night, but there was this party, and then the after party, and then the after party. I needed a major powder break to freshen up before meeting you guys. Good thing I made it on time.
And she is probably the least funny character in the entire game. It's just, haha, makeup. Haha, she gets emotional. Haha, she likes boys. Isn't that so crazy and relatable? You've just seen it a million times before, you know? She reminds me of my sister that breaks traffic laws. Also, apparently she's from Transylvania. They just casually mention it.
We've been waiting for you, Ms. Mariana Kresresko, Sentinel Special Combat Agent from the Transylvania Field Office.
You think the Transylvania character would be like a vampire or something because, haha, that's the thing from Transylvania. It's not that they don't have characters that are just popular thing associated with country. Gameplay-wise, Pink is used to get rid of spikes, and outside of spikes, her main use is for things that aren't too far away where you're forced to use gun, but aren't too close where it's better to use sword or fist. I didn't really use her when I didn't have to in normal gameplay. Whip is really good in specific boss fights, but in normal gameplay, I only really used her when I had to. It's a bit redundant, but I can easily say she isn't the worst morph. However, spiked enemies just end up feeling like a chore after a while. You can't do any damage to them until their spikes are off. It just leads me to spamming whip until I can switch to fist and kill them in 3 seconds. And they have this move that's just like strutting forward and annihilating your entire team. But you really shouldn't get hit by this. But yet you do. Maybe if Whip did slight damage to them when they still had their armor, it would feel a bit less slow. Oh hey, Giant Robot is back. It's not so much a boss this time and more just one giant escape sequence. You're jumping from building to building, you gotta go in this area where the floor is collapsing, and then the building goes sideways, you gotta walk in the windows, it's fun. And then the game stops having fun to do a 2-screen section. To be fair, this is one of the more creative 2-screen sections, but I mean, it's still not fun. You gotta control the ship by moving to buttons on the bottom screen, then look at the top screen to see what's actually going on. Remind you of anything? You can't go any faster than the game wants you to. It's one giant auto-scroller. The perspective leads me to not knowing what lane I'm in compared to obstacles. Even then, they're so easy to avoid, you pretty much gotta be actively trying to die here. I mean, it's not the longest thing ever, but I was just having so much fun a second ago, and then you just gotta throw this in there. Anyway, boss time. It's this thing on top of the tower. It's got this move where it stops you from using Unite morphs for like 3 seconds. It has a laser that you can't reflect for some reason. That was lame. Where's that big robot guy? Now this is a good boss fight. You have to defend a tower from his attacks by blocking them or throwing them back at him. You have aircrafts coming in and shooting at him to help you out and by giving you new team members. You can heal the tower by circling these electric spots. Pink and green really excel in this fight because they can do really good damage from far away. Also, there's a beautiful Joe reference here if you fail this quick time event 10 times in a row.
Oh my god! What is happening, girl?
Nothing, girl.
How is Joe?
He's good, but he stood me up last night. Said something about the last movie in a Red Hot trilogy.
He did what? Tell him to quit going to the movies all the time. Such a deadbeat.
I know.
No, I do not think he's red hot. You are a crazy girl.
That's fun. You go into its core, blow it up, and that's the boss. Good shit. Plot time. Big plasma shield protects Earth. 5 generators disguised as statues power shield. Aliens are attacking the generators to destroy the shield that protects Earth so they can destroy Earth. This is the first level that's traced from the typical city setting, and it's got some pretty creative fuck you, Luka. I will get to the small child at a later point in time. This level does some pretty cool stuff, like jumping from plane to plane, going into cargo bays, if boxes sliding around, get gambling halls. Is this a plane or a hotel? I really like the new enemy design here, the N-Vans. They look kinda spooky. Not like terrifying, but more like if I looked up one day and saw 10 of those things in the sky, I'd give up. We find Professor Shirogane, who's important because plot of later in the game, and we find Yellow. Fun fact, during Wonder Yellow's intro cutscene, my game fucked out and didn't load any of Red's textures in this cutscene.
Also, on way to airport to come here, I get lost. I almost miss a plane.
Hey man, you sure you want to fly over the open ocean during all this? You bet your fucking ass I do. Gameplay-wise, Yellow is a hammer, and I'm not a big fan of him, honestly. Hammer is supposed to be a very slow but very powerful attack, so naturally you'd expect it to be very strong to compensate for its long startup, but in reality it's almost entirely outclassed by Fist. The small version of the hammer is almost pathetic for how long it takes, making the only option the large hammer you get from drawing a large shape. However, that version is on a timer and only allows you to do 2 to 3 hits before it goes back down to normal size, and the hits from it are good but aren't like great or amazing or anything. Compare this to Fist, where by the time you get Yellow, you've upgraded it enough to where you can kill a big enemy and still have some charge to go for another guy. Yellow just kinda ends up feeling irrelevant. In the structure of the morphs, Yellow does damage to a specific enemy up close, but isn't good enough to be used. Maybe it could have been changed a bit by making it so he has super armor to go through an attack or something. At least then you would have not had to block and get screwed because of the timer. Now some may say that Yellow is designed to be used in multi-unites, which allow you to use 2 weapons at once. Which, fair point, especially considering multi-unites are available from the shop right before this mission, but even then I don't know if Yellow is the best at multi-unites. Yellow is really only used to break the armor on these turtle guys and spots where the game requires him. Outside of that, he's easily the least used out of the main 7 for me. At least Yellow as a character is charming. He's Russian, he speaks broken English and is shy. How can you not love him? I mean, he's not the funniest character, but I don't want to actively shut him up. Also, I should probably mention this at some point. If you circle around the little guys when they're in that long blowing up animation, you can make them join your team. They act as normal team members, but it's neat. This level has some cool stuff besides this, like having to use a sword to absorb lightning to power a generator, and having 2 turret sections against the N-Vans. One that's like the dragon boss, and one where you shoot in full 3D. Also the spinning tunnel section, even though the camera sometimes shoves stuff off screen. Then you have a fight on one of the N-Vans' heads, and you have to fight with these shock ring things. It's really memorable. They really had a lot of ideas when it came to fighting in the air. I like it. Juana, who was one of the main things I remembered about this game from when I first played it back in 2013. Well, not Juana himself. I remembered his robot dragon. Grab a missile and have to dodge N-Vans and lasers at the core of Juana's ship, and then you get to fight the dragon. You have to climb on its back while dodging missiles and fighting enemies. Also, fuck these electric eel things. I didn't know you could use pink to stun them until my second playthrough. Please just use pink for them because they're a nightmare to deal without her. You make the dragon bite itself in half and then you have to fight on top of one of the N-Vans. You gotta use his attacks against him, whether it be destroying his saws, climbing on his spears, or hitting his energy balls back at him. Probably one of the lesser boss fights simply for its over-reliance on minigames, but it's memorable at least.
Woo-wee! Now that's what you call old-fashioned Southern ingenuity. Or in slightly more technical terms, a subspace stealth circuit.
That son of a bitch.
We knew this day was a-comin', so we whipped up a little something sure to stop them invaders in their tracks. Feast your peepers on the Shirogane Comet.
The Shirogane Comet?
That baby's a super dreadnought class weapon on a 10-year orbit around Earth. An antimatter particle cannon capable of knocking a whole planet off her rocker in an instant. We finished her up after Earth Defense War 2, see? And disguised her as a comet to throw everyone off the scent. Now, we wait 24 hours for them jerks to come into firing range, and victory is ours.
Oh, yeah, cool story, bro. Would have been nice if you shared that sooner.
Alas, I must agree with Blue. You do realize we spent an entire day on the Shirogane Comet during Sentinel's orientation?
That's Pink's one and only good joke in the entire game. Neo Moo, this game's water level, but it's okay because the water doesn't do anything. It's supposed to be a future underwater city like Rapture without the mutation drugs. You don't swim in the water, you just walk over, and you don't go under unless you bring out Hammer. You don't need to stay as Hammer though, you can just switch to anyone and you'll be fine. You don't go slower or have an air meter like in most games. Well, okay, you do go slower technically, but it's so small a change that I was only able to tell comparing footage side by side. The only major difference is that you fall slower. Water is basically just land too. Next main wonderful member, Wonder White. White is cool as fuck. He's got claws, he's Japanese, he can freeze enemies. He's super good for getting your combo score up. I really like the sections where he can climb up walls with him. His normal attack sends you forward and he can do some cool abstract platforming. And by abstract platforming, I mean jank because holy shit, some of this stuff is just not functional, but it's good jank. Jank can be good, everyone. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Also, for some reason, sometimes when you deal damage, you can regain some of your health back. It seems to be most common with White. I don't know what causes it. I guess it has something to do with your combo, but bonus points for White anyway. Also, his quick time event shout is one of the best in the game.
Unite! Crawl!
That is a power scream. This chapter's villain is Vajone.
How dare you! I was doing my turn on the catwalk while you were still in diapers!
I swear I have heard this voice before. I can't remember where, but I know I have heard it before. You fight her as solely Blue. She has an attack that turns you into a dog. You need to have the attack that turns you into a dog. Without the attack that turns you into a dog, the game would feel incomplete. Her boss is pretty simple, all things considered, but she makes Blue fall down, and this is actually for something interesting. Since we don't have Blue anymore, you think you wouldn't be able to use Sword for this section, but you're wrong. You see, every one of the Wonderful members has a weapon assigned to them, so when you don't have the main Wonderful character, it goes to one of the other members, but that's not the interesting part. All of these characters are fully voiced. When you get a game over, you get a screen of whatever character you're playing as, and they say Roger when you hit continue.
Roger!
Along with the voice clips when they attack and get hit and stuff. I only managed to get footage of Wonder Gamer, yes that's his name, and Wonder Guitar for the game over screen, and when going through my footage I found me playing as Wonder Professor for a couple seconds.
Roger!
Roger!
It's possible that all 100 Wonderful members have their own unique voice clips, which if that's true, that's insane dedication for something 0.01% of players would ever see. I couldn't find a compilation of all the game over screens on YouTube, probably because this game wasn't that popular and it would definitely be a bitch to get all of them, but if someone could do that, that would be fucking amazing. If every character really is voiced, I would bet actual money that there are some voice clips that no player has ever heard. Okay, you get Blue back in time for a 2-screen section that's functional with a question mark. You gotta keep track of which color is getting shot at and make sure you're not on that color, but like, wow, this is weird. Also, I just remembered this recently. In the Wii U version, you had to control the camera in these 2-screen sections using gyro, including this one. Why even fucking bother? I enjoy the jank, but like, wow, how did this happen? Operation 4B is basically just a story stage, so sorry if things get a little bit boring, but like I have to talk about it because it works with the gameplay in weird ways. I gotta mention it. So anyway, another Vorkin fight. The fight in itself is basically the same as the first one, except now with Whip, Hammer, and Claw, and Vorkin can replicate certain enemies' attacks like these turtle guys. Nothing that particularly groundbreaking or worth mentioning, everything all over again. Aw, cool, new enemy. Hey, wait a minute. This is just a rescanned Lambo. Actually, on the danger meter at the bottom, Lambo is like way lower than half the things we're fighting now. How did this guy become a general? He must have just really sounded like he knew what he was talking about. Joan causes a flood, Blue goes ahead, all the team members except Red get stuck stopping the flood, you go after Blue. The girl from the spaceship that showed up earlier but I didn't mention to make the script flow better shows up and introduces herself as Immorta. She tells you she's a member of the space police and basically tells you to get your shit together. Because we don't have any team members, we can't use Unite Morphs, but to compensate, all the enemies have really low health, so it's a neat diversion. You have a boss fight against Blue, it doesn't last that long, but it's kind of annoying. You only have fists and he has this long ass sword, so it's so easy to get comboed. It's like fighting Lucina, but then to make it even worse, you're playing as Little Mac. After you beat each other up, you get this gear thing, and I know this is a really small thing to nitpick, but this gear takes a surprising amount of mashing to work. It really threw me off of how fast you need to press square in comparison to every other mashing segment in the entire game.
I was raised by my big brother. It's just been him and me ever since I can remember. Not the easiest life in the world, maybe, but man, that guy's like a superhero to me. You know, he was with the FBI, tracking down Gah-Goojin after the last invasion. When I was younger, he got a lead on a case he'd been working on for a long time. He and his partner were after alien intelligence. Some operatives holed up in a safe house on Earth. It was a trap. Gah-Goojin had a mole in the FBI. His team was wiped out, and worse, they got their hands on some files containing our defense secrets. Turns out the mole was his partner. She sold him out, and that's why Bijon needs to die. And she's gonna pay for it if I have to cut it out of her. It's the whole reason I joined this team in the first place.
After that heartfelt backstory, you play some Fireboy and Water Girl on cool math games.
Oh my. I hope I'm not interrupting.
Come on, man. Can we stop with the story for a bit? I want to talk about game mechanics, not write a book report for summer reading. Finally, mini-boss against this tank thing. I really like this guy because it combines a lot of Unite Morphs. Use green and pink to throw back different types of bombs, white climbs to its weak point, and red deals damage. It's probably one of the best non-C mission bosses. Speaking of C mission bosses, it's time for it, finally. Bijon has an octopus mech and you use every Unite Morph to beat her. In the first phase, she attacks you with 2 limbs, and you use green to deal chip damage and pink to deal damage when they're closer and to throw back spike bombs. Blue to reflect lasers, red to deal damage when they get stunned, and yellow to knock her off the statue. Second phase amps things up with attacking with 4 limbs. You gotta deal damage with green, absorb lightning and reflect lasers, and chop gunk with blue, rip spikes off with pink, and deal damage with red. Multiple limbs will try to attack you at once, so you gotta switch back and forth constantly. Then in phase 3, you gotta use white to open up her eye to attack while dodging her drills. It's really fun, and this is the only boss that uses all your abilities. I wish more bosses did this. But like, I guess the other bosses make up for it depending on how you look at it by having entirely new concepts. This is one of the few bosses that is all standard gameplay all the time, and the standard gameplay is really good, so I welcome that. Operation 5 is a level in Africa, and if you haven't already, make sure to buy Multi-Unite because it gets really useful in this area.
Operation 005, Mount Ogato, Lost City of Lorule.
Ah, nice. Let me grab my 3DS real quick. I like how the level transitioned from the outside to the inside of the temple. I hate these cube guys. They're like mini Vorkins of transforming into different Unite Morphs, and then you need to counter a fist or hammer. And for some reason, moves default to using their Cyclone moves against these guys. When you unlock these, it says to spin the stick around when you press the attack button. I'm not spinning anything here. Each one of these cube things counts as an individual enemy, so I'm guessing the game thinks if there's this big a group of enemies in front of me, that I would probably want to do a Cyclone to hit all of them. Which sounds good on paper and is good when they're all stunned and separated, but I wish you could just do a standard jab against these guys when they're all just floating together. We get our last permanent Unite Morph member, Wonder Black, and he's a video gamer who plays video games. And he grabbed his 3DS.
Aw, yeah, gaming time. Am I right, lads, or am I right, lads?
Does anyone know how this stuff happened? This stuff where it's like for gamers, but also making fun of them at the same time? Why would you ever wear this shit? It's actively calling you a crackhead. Is there like a clear origin point for this stuff? Like a defining moment where this stuff caught on? Genuinely curious. Okay, incoherent tangent over. Back to my video about extreme Pikmin. Wonder Black's morph is a bomb, and it slows down time for anyone caught in its blast blast radius, which really lets you tack on damage. It's super good for multi-unites, which by pressing triangle lets you use a unite morph, but quickly switch to another one while the move is still active. Send out bomb, quickly change the fist and kill them. It's pretty much required for these Dory guys. They block pretty much every attack if they aren't slowed down. The only real downside to using this is that it takes up a ton of your energy meter. Also, I'm gonna put a spoiler warning here. I know it seems kinda dumb to put a spoiler warning 45-ish minutes into the video, but all the characters that have been unlocked so far on the box and the game's title screen, so if you don't want to be spoiled and you really care about the story or whatever the fuck, get out. Orkin ship attacks when we get into a chase sequence ends with a timing minigame using yellow. Do you think the people that played Tennis for Two in the 1970s thought that gaming would ever lead to this? The actual fight with Orkin is pretty much the same as the last two, except now that he has bomb, Chugi does a spin attack that takes up a portion of the playing field, he has a few more abilities from the shop, that's pretty much it. What I'm actually going to use this opportunity to talk about is the game's items. Obviously there's the main healing items and the items that refill your energy meter, but there's also Fire Victory and Thunder Victory torpedoes that shoot missiles onto the map. But what's 100 times more interesting is the Justice Missile, which you get from rescuing citizens on each stage, and you manually aim it with the right stick and shoot it at your target. It does good damage and is a really cool idea, but it lowers your rank, so I just end up forgetting all the items exist. Anyway, you beat them but also lose, Mortis saves you, and there's a Dig Dug style minigame. I didn't expect this, but it somehow works really well. The B part of the level is based a lot around problem solving. You gotta dodge lava waves by getting onto high ground, and then you do a mini boss by timing when to get off these spike platforms so it hits the robot. You gotta bring a blue orb over to this area without it getting destroyed so you can get a statue, and then on the way back, the area gets flipped and you have to climb up your way with white. We get to a door and... holy shit, I will talk about the small infant child at a later point in time. Boss time. The first phase is similar to the Chapter 2 boss, because you gotta protect the platform you're on from taking too much damage. Pink and green are great here like you'd expect. Now, second phase is where shit gets real, because you go inside the robot and get to control it, and you get a punch-out style boss fight. I think any game with a punch-out boss is just blessed to be good. It's also a little more complex than Punch-Out 2, with a jump button and a version of star punches and KO meter at the same time. As a huge Punch-Out fan, I gotta say it's a good fight too. The attacks are telegraphed by the eyes and face like in the Tyson fight. I really like that detail. You go inside his robot and he's super easy if you use bomb. Legit, look how fast that health bar is draining. There's one last phase where you escape from the volcano where you simply need to dodge the attacks for a certain amount of time. It's one of the shorter bosses, but it has punch out, so I'm legally obligated to love it. You take Luka and head for the game's ice level, Gah-Goojin Island. More like Cockin Island, because this is pretty much just Mount Ogerto Blue Edition. Now, with ice physics, all the ice just acts as lava. The only thing that's specifically ice-related that it has is bringing flames to melt ice of red, and maybe this one section with icy wind, but that's it. If this was your child, would you be proud of them? Vajon comes... wait, didn't we kill her? We didn't? Boo. Blue gets angry, falls into a trap, and is rescued, and then we get a backstory segment. Play as young Commander Nelson in this cool 50s future world, where we see Red's dad get murdered in front of him. There's a lot of character development here, but I'm not qualified to talk about it without it sounding like a book report, so instead I'll just talk about the boss fight against Lambo. The fight starts off with you having no teammates and doing practically no damage, but then you knock a remote out of him and take control of his minions, then you can draw a spiral to use the drill ability. This is the only time the drill ability is used in the entire game, and while it doesn't have that many uses or attributes, it's still cool to see unique stuff like this get made for such a short section. Red's dad dies a hero, and Blue learns the error of his ways and completes his character arc Yahoo! But after that awesome section, the level just goes back to pissing itself. We get this shoot 'em up section, but it's unlike the other types where it's from an overhead perspective, and it sucks. The camera is at an isometric angle, and it doesn't work with this. I can't see where I'm aiming, there's all these obstacles that block my view, and the wind pushes you around in waiting sections, and the whole thing is an auto-scroller, and there's things that can one-shot you. It just sucks, man. All the other minigames are done in like 5 minutes max. This one goes on for over 10 minutes and just makes me want to get back to regular enemy fighting. It ends with a fight against Vajon and their octopus mech, and is such a letdown after good her first fight was, and she remains dead this time, so she can't even redeem herself again. After the fight, Immorta joins you and has her own unite morph of a crossbow. It's basically just gun, but if you kill an enemy, they fight for you, but even then it only works with small enemies. She's not in every level following this point, but even in the level she is in, I keep forgetting about her. It's just kind of boring.
Yeah, it says, I wait at the summit. Signed Prince Vorkin. It's in Roloian.
That's not what it says, and it isn't in Eurolian. Immorta gives us a plot dump. Vorkin, King of Comet Land. Vorkin good. Gefjerk show up. Gefjerk blow up Comet Land. Vorkin bad now. Even the sea boss is lame. Vorkin killed the real boss, and now it's just the Vorkin fight with 2 phases, and one is on the Virgin Victory so there's less room to dodge attacks. There's slight differences with Vorkin's attacks, but it's still basically the exact same thing. Immorta and Vorkin yell at each other. Vorkin gets zapped by the new villain Gimme. Yes, that's his name. Gimme. Vorkin has a nano bioweapon in him that'll kill him really quickly, and then Luka shows up and says he has a pendant that can deactivate the super reactors. Gimme takes Luka, and don't worry, the fabled later is getting closer by the minute. This level sucks. It's easily the worst world, and Operation 7 isn't that much better. On the way back to Blossom City, the team goes into Vorkin's body to kill the nanobot thing. You only start off with 10 members, so you gotta use enemy recruits to get more numbers. Of course, this important mission can only be handled by the best of the best, you know, red, blue, green, pink, yellow, white, black, toilet guy, the obvious picks. This is the only level to have 2 parts instead of 3, instead choosing to make B its boss. There isn't anything that's awful, but there isn't anything where I'm like, man, you know what my favorite part of the game was? The Vorkin's body levels, where you fight 3 electric eels in a row. At least this place has a lot of effort put into it. This place looks completely unique compared to anything else in the game. Oh yeah, I got a collectible. Oh shit, collectibles! Yeah, the collectibles kinda suck ass. There's the wonderful files, which are just the descriptions of the wonderful members that are in the gallery page when you first unlock them. You got the Gefjerk files, which are the same, but they actually have unique descriptions. Wonderful statues that are just the members and the poses that are also in the gallery. Get these from either Wonder Toilets, or they're in the weirdest spots, like random windows or circles just randomly put on the map. So you combine these 2 things and you get a game that I don't want to 100%. Chugi along with all of Vorkin's teammates show up and help out the main crew, and we get his Unite morph, the Naginata. Chugi explains his past of Vorkin being a real meanie head who conquers planets and kills people. The Naginata is pretty much just used to block bacteria. Using it by itself sucks and has barely any attack range. Using it as a multi-unite is 10 times better, but even then it does like no damage. The boss is okay where you ride on P-Star and have to shoot it in this 3D area, then when it gets weak you get to get up close and beat the crap out of it. After a while though, it just kinda stops fighting back and you pretty much just get to spam missiles for free. At least the final section is really cool. You get to switch sizes and it ends with you stomping the fucking shit out of him. An okay boss for an okay area. We get out of Vorkin's body and Blossom City gets nuked because they're trying to find... Men, yes, we have a problem. What problem? Okay, so you know those Nintendo fans? Yeah? You know how they're fucking dumbasses? Oh yeah, absolutely. You know how they think any game that's exclusive to a Nintendo system is made by Nintendo? They don't know Namco makes Smash Brothers. They think Nintendo makes Pokemon. They don't know Intelligent Systems makes Fire Emblem and Monolith Soft makes Xenoblade. They didn't even know Alpha Dream existed until they went bankrupt. To them, it's all just one massive roof of Nintendo. Some of those things haven't happened yet because this conversation is taking place in 2013, but yeah. How do we make sure everyone knows this game is made by Platinum Games and not Nintendo? Well, what if we just put our logo and brand name everywhere in the last quarter of the game?
Platinum. 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 Platinum.
Platinum?
Platinum. 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 Platinum.
It appears they say platinum quite a bit. Other platinum controls important comment, go stop them from destroying it. I really like this area. It's based off the first 2 levels, with some areas being taken straight from them, but now all destroyed and filled with anti-gravity. Some areas are sideways and you use white to climb them up, plus with his abstract platforming. It's just a really fun area to be in. Also, I like how the characters' clothes are all teared up because the entire game is taken over the course of one day. It's just a nice attention to detail. The background looks super good too, despite barely ever getting a chance to look at it fully. It's a really nice change of pace after going through this for the past 2 areas. There's this 2-screen boss against this N-Van though, and I don't really like this honestly. The N-Van doesn't really attack you. You pretty much just look at the bottom screen to make sure you won't get hit by the missiles that you don't even see the N-Van fire. It's just a fun level before we get to the final boss area. The sea boss is gimme. The first phase is like the Lambo fight of the first level where you pilot a ship and shoot at them. You gotta destroy the engines while dodging enemy fire and debris. The second phase is a standard enemy gauntlet and we get some backstory on Luka.
Payback! That's why. Payback for what happened to my mom! My mom was a scientist with the Sentinels. She spent all her time in some lab making a barrier that was supposed to protect the planet. And then one day there was an accident and she died. They killed my mom.
Don't worry, we're getting there. I really like this tower phase because after you take each one out, the others' attacks get harder and harder to dodge. Plot happens and we get Platinum Robo. We'll get to the plot soon. What's important is that we get another Punch-Out style boss fight. It's a lot tougher than the first one too, with multiple phases in itself, and as a really big Punch-Out fan, this fight gets a good from me. We get more backstory for Luka.
It's true. Your mother gave up her life to create Margarita. Professor Margarita volunteered to sacrifice herself to become the computer at the heart of Earth's defenses. Mother Platinum. Professor Margarita was an unparalleled genius. No one could match her expertise in the field of Earth defense technology. But the enemy humanity faced was simply too powerful. Even with all her skill, she couldn't devise a system that could withstand an enemy invasion, let alone the neural network that would be necessary to control it. There was only one way. She turned herself into a machine, into the very neural computer humanity needed. The mechanized remnants of your mother sleep deep within Mother Platinum. Professor Margarita turned herself into a machine to save humanity. Your mother is alive, Luka. She's the shield that safeguards humanity's future. Your mother is Margarita.
Let's see how he finishes his character arc. Also, Gimmy's dead. Well, okay, man, okay. You're almost there. You can do this. Don't give up now. One last chapter. Woo! Let's go. The shield gets destroyed, so we ride the robot to get to the comet to blow up the aliens. Nearly all of the aim mission is in this on-rail shooter style. One thing that bugs me though is that in all the other shooter sections you can hold down the button to rapid fire, but in this one you're forced to tap the button, which... fuck you. Also, fun fact, the game over screen for Platinum Robo is of a crying mother. At this point in the script, my brain is fried and I can't think of a way to transition this, so... halfway through, it changes to an isometric perspective and it still sucks. At least it's better here because of the crosshair, but I still don't like it. You fire the Shirogane Comet and... oh man, that's fucking satisfying. You know all those annoying turtles and spike enemies? Yeah, you just destroyed a fucking million of them. The game's not done yet though, because the aliens have a super duper fortress that you need to take down.
This is Geth Jerk's ace in the hole.
That was one impressive hole.
Ah, motherfucker. Okay, I guess we can have one sex joke in the video. This leads to more shooting, followed by normal combat, where you get team members by simply knocking down robots. You know, with all these shooting sections, I'm really glad that Platinum Games got to get it all out of their system with Star Fox Zero, which they made 3 years later, and we all know how that turned out. If that's what the Star Fox sections mean, then what do the Punch-Out sections mean? We dodge robots, Chuggy shows up, we dodge some lasers, Vorkin shows up, and we get Vorkins Unite morph a boomerang. The boomerang weapon is super good for this reactor boss fight too, because you can stand in the center and pretty much never get hit by the lasers. It's kind of a shame though that it gets introduced so late because you can't do a lot with it. Final boss time, everyone, let's do this. If you can't tell, I'm fried at this point, so let's just fucking get it over with. Jurginga. He throws a lot of plot at you, but you know what? No, I'm not doing this shit. There's a lot of twists here, some of which are interesting, but I'm not doing it. Let's just talk about the boss fight. First phase, you gotta destroy each weak spot and switch between which one is able to be damaged while dodging drill attacks. I like the idea of this phase, but on normal at least, the drills just kinda don't attack you most of the time. And even when they do, they kinda just miss entirely. After you knock his health bar down enough, you just gotta reflect his lasers, which looks cool but isn't that challenging or difficult. Second phase, he puts on a Wonder Mask and he has a lot of attacks in this phase. All of his attacks are based on morphs you have and you gotta destroy his weapons to get him stunned. Remember I used to have trouble on this boss, but now I just use Bomb and I destroyed him. Look at the health bar go down, just use Bomb, seriously. I like this one attack he does though, where he takes away one of your Unite morphs and you gotta take it back. You try to punch him but get overpowered and Luka finds out Wonder Red was his teacher? Don't worry, I'm getting really close to talking about Luka, just be a little more patient. Third phase, dodge missiles and get enough robots to break the barrier. It's not anything particularly special, but the music makes it cool. After you break the barrier, you get to beat the fuck out of him with Max Fist. fuck yeah. Fourth phase, destroy the weak points in his hands and legs. I don't really like this phase, it never feels like you're getting enough damage in, plus he can only hit the legs of sword. Wait a minute, they made a game over screen for the tiny team member robots? Now that is some dedication, man. After all of the phases, the game ends with one last climactic finish with all the characters coming together, topped off with one last mash-off, and that's it. Finally! Well, not yet. We get a final scene of everyone celebrating and being happy and not being dead, and then there's an epilogue that's like the prologue except with Luka instead of Red. And we get Luka's Unite Morph, goggles, you shoot lasers, and it doesn't do that much damage. Luka! You know Hitler killed 6 million people? Well yeah, Luka probably killed 600 million people. Minimum. Like, you saw what they did to Blossom City, and that was just Blossom City. Imagine what they did to, like, Poland, or Argentina, or New Zealand, or the Republic of the Congo. You knew exactly what you were going to do, and you wanted to do it, and now you want to study real hard. Nah, man, you should be dead for treason. Credits, and wow, that is one crusty JPEG. There's some other minor stuff like multiplayer missions, which is just basically a score attack with another player. I try to get my friend to play this, and after 10 minutes he has to play something else. There's some secret characters. You got Vorkin, Immorta, Chugi, Old Wonder Red, which is neat unlocking these characters in the main game. Then there's the more wacky characters, a legally distinct version of Beautiful Joe, a version of the game's director Hideki Kamiya, who dies in one hit, Wonder Red as a child, Wonder Red's dad, Shirogane, some other characters, and some cool Bayonetta cameos. The way you unlock them though is stupid. You gotta beat the game, okay, get 1,000,000 O parts, okay, and go to a specific area and enter a button combination 4 times for each of the game's 4 character packs. Why not just have them on the shop menu? There's also some Kickstarter DLC that's not out yet, like Luka's first and second mission, and the soundtrack remix by a special guest. There's the gallery mode, which lets you look at all the wonderful members, and they made special logos for each one, and you get to read their backstory. Ran out of current gen titles, huh? That's because the only next gen system out of the time was the Wii U. Wait, what the fuck? The Xbox One released 6 days early in Japan? The Xbox doesn't sell for shit in Japan, why? Some super abilities and game achievements, and that's it. That was the wonderful 101. Oh man, if I had to choose one word to describe this game, it would be experimental. Every step of the way, this game throws something at you you've never seen before. The main gameplay is a cross between Pikmin, Okami, and a beat-em-up. The script is filled with jokes you'd find in kids' movies, and the story at times is the most predictable stuff from kids' movies, even though it's rated teen. The game uses 2 screens in a way that almost works sometimes. Every step of the way, they throw new gameplay styles at you, even if they don't always work. Yet through all of that, you can see that they really cared a lot about this game. The crazy over-the-top action, the constant amount of gameplay styles, the things that were made for one section and then barely get used again. The 127 songs, the game over screens for every character, which they really didn't have to do. No one would have batted an eye if it was only Red. There's so much love packed into this game. The combat is fantastic once you get stuff like multi-unites and all the other abilities. The drawing I see being talked about a lot. Some say the drawing doesn't work, some say they've never had a problem with it. For me, while the drawings work, I don't think it's as good as it could be. Like here I drew Claw and somehow got Bomb, literally how. I do feel like it compensates for this though by slowing down time. The soundtrack is absolutely incredible. Just off the top of my head, Gah-Goojin's Revenge, both of the Vorkin themes, Wonder Black's theme, the shop theme, the Punch-Out Boss theme. There's so many good ones. I can't wait for that remix soundtrack. People say they want a sequel, and I do too. I would love if they fixed stuff like the collectibles, touched up the shape detector, make the secret characters not require a button combination, and among other things, but I think we all know that isn't happening. The universe really didn't want this game to succeed, huh? I feel like a sequel would also be more trouble than it's worth, especially considering they'd probably have to redesign or make new wonderful ones, so yeah, never gonna happen. I can 100% see why someone wouldn't enjoy this game. There's so many things that could put someone off. But, you know, sometimes when I'm looking to play a game, I'm not looking for the most polished experience. Sometimes I want something that's just unique. And you know, that's what the Wonderful 101 is. It's such a unique game that there's nothing like it, and there will be nothing like it for a very long time to come, which is something that a lot of games can't say about themselves. There's some fun to be had in the games that tried something new, even if they didn't get it all 100% down. It's not a perfect game, but man, is it something that I will not forget. Mostly because of the torment of making this 1-hour video on it, but also because the game is pretty neat. And with that being said, I'm out of things to say. I'm super fucking tired. Have a good day. Join me next time when I talk about some other dumbass shit no one cares about. Hey, remember when I said this is gonna take a month? Yeah, that guy was a fucking dumbass, wasn't he? I started scripting this on July 15th. Now it's November. Oh my... I've never made a video like this before, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Please, I really hope you... I have a few things I want to say. I would like to thank my friend Logan, because he is pretty much the reason this video exists at all. He pretty much saved my computer after it was like fucking dying. Not even sure my computer would be able to render it if he hadn't fucking fixed it. He also helped out a very small bit with the editing, and he let me get the footage of the multiplayer. Who knew after all that I'd take the crown of talking about the Wonderful 101 for the second longest amount of time in a single video. The record still stands with Matthew Matosis, which he can have that. He's beating me by about 10-ish minutes, a little under 10. He can keep that. He deserves it. It would be a dishonor if I took that away from him. I'm not gonna be doing another hour-long super analytical take on another video game for a very long time. I'm just gonna go back to doing whatever the fuck I did before this. But you know, with obviously quality improvements and stuff, like I've tried really hard to work on like my audio, you know, like my editing and stuff like that. I hope it worked out. I hope it panned out well. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for staying to the fucking end of this video. Like, holy shit. It really means a lot. Oh my god, it's finally over. Holy shit. Tomorrow to celebrate, I'm gonna go beat up some children with rakes.